once you receive the slides. I didn't want to take any of it out because it's really important work, and it's really important for you all to know her level of expertise. I'm Cam Chohan, and I'm the Executive Director of Ecis. We were founded in 1965. We're a life force for our members. We offer them thoughtful and provocative, continued development of courses and all those things. Our members also get many courses free. Child protection is a commitment and a priority for Ecis. We're members of the International Task Force for Child Protection. So we have lots of expectations around child protection, and all of our member schools, which are now nearly 500, adhere to this, so that every child in that school is protected and there's a robust policy in place. I'm just going to show you as well on our website where you can access protocols and information you might need. So if you just hold, I'm just going to stop this share and do a different share.
Cam, sorry to interrupt. Can I request all the participants to mute their mic unless they wish to ask a question? There's a lot of background noise which is actually interrupting the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. So this is Ecis. As I said, we have a massive commitment to child protection, and as founders of the International Task Force. So states all the things that schools need and what we're committed to. But if you go here, can you see where it says Education Portal? That for our members provides protocols, policies for free. And these have been done with many of the people that we work with on the task force. And it's really important information for schools so that they can make sure every child is covered. So a quick start, it gives you all the things you need: developing a child protection policy, training staff and volunteers. So it's very comprehensive. We also offer online child protection certification, which is approved by NEASC and Cambridge Assessment. So the certificate, these are the components, so that everybody in your school, support staff, teachers, owners, all know their explicit responsibilities. We've sold many of these licenses, probably approaching 1 million now. This training is very popular with all our members. Right, so I'm going to go back to the slideshow now. Okay. So the objective for today's training is to provide a comprehensive overview of the principles of safeguarding children and the school's responsibilities. The outcomes: understand how to safeguard children and the importance of that actually, and how to find resources and to provide training for all school staff. So why is it critical? Why is it a critical need for child protection in all schools? First and foremost, it's because it's incumbent on schools to ensure the safety of all children. I'm sure you're all aware of the UN Convention and the rights of a child. By not addressing anything that comes up in our schools, we're not looking after those children properly. It's a major concern. So I'm going to talk to you about a case that happened here in the UK. This was the worst case of failing for child protection. Victoria was a 5-year-old girl when she came to this country. She was living with her auntie. Lots of people saw that she had marks from where she'd been slapped over her body. This was teachers, doctors, police. Lots of people were involved, but nobody ever flagged it and said, Actually, I think there's a real issue here. As a consequence, Victoria died and she had 128 injuries when they did the post-mortem. These are all the people that were involved that had seen Victoria and thought there was an issue, but nobody raised a flag, including people in schools. So I just want you to take a moment to think about how you would feel. Please look up Victoria MB, her name is. Look it up and see what happened to her. There's a great YouTube video about her life. And how would you feel if you'd been one of those teachers or she'd been in your school and people had seen the marks, but nobody had done anything about it? That is the consequences of then having to live with those difficult things that, you know, perhaps we didn't address. So Katia, so the key themes coming up from what happened was child protection was a low priority. There was a lack of accountability, repeated failures of basic professional practice. So this is an important one. Too much and outdated local guidance. Find the best guidance. We are now a global community. You can contact anyone around the world and have a conversation with them. Staff were inadequately trained in child protection. So there's a lot of issues here that might be in your schools that you can address very, very easily. We can train staff. We can make sure information's exchanged properly with the correct policies and things in place. So think about these key themes. We don't want these key themes occurring in anyone's school. So Katia, I'm going to hand over to you. Oh, actually, should we do this as a breakout activity first? What are the consequences of not having protected the children in your care? So we can either put you into breakout rooms. Malavan, did we want to put people into breakout rooms for this? You're on mute.
Okay, so I will just assign automatically.
Yeah, so we want you all to discuss the consequences of not having protected the children in your care, and then you're going to come back and share at least one or two from each group. Okay, is that all right? Everybody happy with that? Super.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Malavan, breakout rooms didn't work. Can you try again, please?
Okay,
Everybody
sure.
in room
You
one.
can select the number of breakout rooms that you want to create.
Oh, unfortunately. Hey, sorry, man, I've not done this before, and my apologies.
So when you click on the breakout rooms, you have
Okay.
an option where you can select how many you want to create.
Oh, okay. I think should the session end first?
Yeah, put
Session.
no, don't end the session. Just close
Okay.
all the breakout rooms that you created, but I think all of us are back. So now when you
Yes.
hit again breakout rooms, you have the option to select a number of breakout rooms.
Okay. So how many
Click
breakout
on-
rooms should I add?
Because we are 70, you can create like probably 7 or
7.
8.
Okay. All right. And should I press recreate or open all
Yes,
rooms?
recreate. No, recreate.
Okay,
Recreate,
assign.
you have 8 or 10 or how many you decided.
All right. Okay. I've just done open all rooms.
Exactly. Do you
All
have
right.
10?
I've got.
How many breakout rooms you have?
No, I created 7, but only one is
Okay.
showing on my screen.
Okay, let's see.
My apologies.
Yeah, it's. I think it just assigns everyone to room 1.
Oh. Shall we try a different approach? Shall we forget about breakout rooms?
We can type in here our responses, and moderator can just see.
Would that be okay with you? Katya and Cam?
Yes, I was going to suggest maybe we can do it from here also because it would allow people to pay attention,
Okay.
to see on the live YouTube and other recordings.
sure.
So we can do this here. There is no problem.
Can you assign someone else to create the breakout rooms, maybe? Let someone else be the host.
Yeah, I would love that. Anyone who can help me?
I can do that if you want.
Yeah, Katya, yeah, please, you're a co-host.
Perfect. I'm just waiting for the room to close.
Okay.
We are waiting for 19 seconds and I'll do that. So no worries about it.
My apologies.
No worries. It's a learning curve. I've done this a few too many times and I've done a lot of mistakes as well. So don't worry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let me recreate here. We'll have about 5 participants so we can have a more deliberate discussion. And
Okay.
please just take advantage of introducing yourselves quickly. We will be coming back in about, let's see, what time is it now? In about 10 minutes, 5 minutes? 5? 10, perfect. We'll be seeing you again in about 10 minutes. We are going to let me just put here 10 minutes. And please assign, if you don't mind, just assign one person in your group. So when you come back, you can either unmute or write on the chat some of the things that you found out. Is it okay? Is everyone okay? Okay, perfect.
Got it.
Okay,
Katya,
let's
do you want to
go.
repeat the question so that everybody remembers what they are actually doing?
Absolutely, thank you. The question is, what are the consequences for children when you have an issue like that? So what are the consequences for you, for the school, for the school environment and whatnot? Okay, so we want to hear from you. What are some of the consequences you may feel from it? See you in 10 minutes. There is someone with a sound problem.
No, it happens once in a while on Zoom. So I told her to rejoin or restart the computer.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. Can I make a suggestion? Can we put the question on the screen?
I'll send it to them. We should have put it in the chat before they left to the room.
Okay.
Otherwise, I can't. But I'll send a broadcast about with the question.
Okay. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thanks.
You're welcome. Oh, there's 2 people unassigned. Perfect. I just paused the recording during the session so we can resume it so it doesn't have this big lag.
So 2 more have just joined. Okay.
Just added them to the different rooms.
Okay. So I've never done the breakout rooms before. That's why I struggle. In the breakout room, are they able to speak to each other or will they be chatting? They can speak.
They can speak, they can use the chat, and they can also share depending on the configurations of the Zoom. Oh, there is another one.
Okay. Yes.
So I joined, but I left and I didn't pay attention whether we had all the commands, but you can share your screen. You can do some jotting as well. So.
Okay.
And don't worry, I've been there before.
Yeah. The first time, I've never done this before. So I was wondering, okay, fine. Should I press this or this?
Well, you can always chat and let me know. I will help you.
Okay.
So don't worry about it.
Sure, man. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
If I tell my kids, they're going to laugh. What you do? You're running so many trainings, you do not know to use the breakout room.
Well, the kids are always far more advanced in technology than we are at times.
Absolutely. So they're able to, like, how do you say, the level of observation, understanding the kids have these days are far superior compared to what we had in our days.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a bit scary.
I know. I I have a 5-year-old and I look at her answers and her questions and I wonder, Jesus, what is going to happen in 10 years? what kind of questions am I going to get from her?
Absolutely.
There's
They've got so much of information. Yeah.
Yeah, they have so much information, which is something that we are actually very worried in a sense, because many kids are having unsupervised access to the internet from a very early age.
Yeah.
And we're having the consequences of it already. So lots of issues, not only sexual behaviors, but
Yes.
also, Nazi salutations in schools, or you have unfortunate behaviors on the internet that end up jeopardizing the child's life. So it's been something to be very, very attentive to.
Very true. Very true. See, even the kind of cartoons, oh my goodness.
Yes.
So I've got to tell my kids, okay, before you play, okay, just tell me which one you're going to watch, and then I will tell you whether you can watch or not.
Yeah.
Because I know, they're watching cartoons of different languages. My son, he loves the Japanese, for some strange reason.
Oh, my child is the same thing. She loves Russian. There is a Russian boy and girl who play with each other and build houses and build things like that. And oh my God, she loves it. I don't understand a single thing they're saying, but she loves it. But it's very interesting because we rely a lot on technology. And on YouTube Kids, for instance, you can actually put the level of the age of the child. So it would show only what the child would be able to view. You can actually block the videos, which I blocked a lot for my child. But it is very interesting to see that parents are relying too much on this technology and just giving the iPad and leaving. I don't do that. I'm always on the hearing distance, just because there has been instances where I've seen the iPad or the YouTube video that was not adequate for her age at all, because it is automated in the end, and there is a risk. So
very true. See, what I notice in my daughters is they are trying to enact what they have seen. They're trying to imitate how the characters have spoken. And without even understanding the meaning, she constantly uses the word "don't patronize me." When I asked her what it means, she said, "I have no idea."
Exactly. But that's how children learn, right? They learn from modeling behaviors. And that is the concerning part. And that is one of the things that we say, it's not bad, but it's very important to really notice. And my child is very, very smart, but I've seen her every now and then looking at a character or a child or someone else on YouTube, and then she mimics it. She uses the same jargons, which when you're saying, don't patronize me, I can imagine how cute it is. But there's some other behaviors that are, for instance, there is a lot of unpacking of gifts on YouTube, and this incites consumerism. Or, and you start seeing that the child wants more and more and more and more. So there's a lot of little nuances that are I'm going to close the breakout rooms because I don't know if it's going to be automatic, and they're coming back in 1 minute.
Okay.
But there are so many nuances that we need to be very attentive to. And there are lots of things that need to be, let me put back to the recording. A lot of things that we need to think about when you're talking to children.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just giving a few more minutes for everyone to come back.
We still have to come back, Katia. I think we're on about 74, so they're all coming back in now.
Yes, fantastic. I saw the rooms were coming out, people were coming in. That's great. Yeah. So was it enough time for everyone to have a good discussion? Perfect.
I think it was, yes.
Fantastic. I would love to hear from a couple of you on what were your thoughts about the consequences. Any volunteers?
We were in group 1. Can we start off?
This is Rahman from room number 9.
Okay.
We discussed this question and we come up with these points that if you are not careful about the child protection as a teacher, it will affect his mental growth. It will, like all the critical thinking and problem solving skills. The child will be educationally as well as physically affected and will not be able to express himself or herself socially. And it will end up as a whole, the child will be affected and the responsibility will come on the teacher. Like the teacher is the responsible. The parents have sent him or her to the teacher. So the teacher should be educated enough. He must know the child psychology and must understand the classroom environment. And every child should be given proper care.
Fantastic, Ramham. Thank you very much indeed. And I love that you mentioned the responsibility is important for our world. Mandatory reporting is it's an issue. So we need not only the teachers, but everyone in the schools in some country are mandated to report. So this is fantastic. So there may be legal repercussions as well. Alifia, and please forgive me about my mispronunciation of your names.
No, that's right. It's Alifia here, and I will represent my team. And it's absolutely right what the first speaker spoke about, that, see, we are not just teachers, we are educators, and it's our responsibility to create responsible, well-developed citizens for tomorrow. And if that's a thing we are looking at, then it's important that we are very well aware of the different kind of abuses a child can go through, whether it's physical, emotional, neglect, etc. And the consequences of not being aware of something like this or not reporting something like this is it will definitely affect their understanding, their learning, their comfort level as well. Now, for some students, the school could be the only safest place for them to come to. So it is important for us as educators, as facilitators, to be able to identify those signs and symptoms, whether they're physical or even emotional, right? If there's a change in the child's behavior, change in the child's study patterns, it is important for us to be quite vigilant, should know the lookouts or the look fors, and then should have a team where the child is aware of, or all students in the school should be aware of the team that they can approach to in case they're going through any kind of mental, physical, or emotional trauma. So that's something that we spoke about. And again, as per the case what we knew about, I mean, something like this could lead to a child's death. So who's going to be responsible for that? Obviously, when the child steps into the school premises, till the time the child leaves the school premises, he or she is under the school's care, and we are a part of that family. So it becomes really mandatory for us then.
Fantastic, Alifa. Sorry, Kim.
Sorry, thank you, Alifa. Your points are really valid, and I really like the fact how seriously you feel about all this. And every teacher needs to have that feeling. And we're not only impacting what the child's doing at school, it has an impact on their future. So it's not just in the moment, it will stay with them forever. Tasneem has been trying to speak. So Tasneem, please let us know your points. You're on mute, Tasneem.
Okay, good morning. We were group 1, and we were just trying to, what Alifia just spoke, we kind of absolutely have written down the same points, and the way we've been trying to bring it a one step forward is that every child first needs to be made aware of there is a child protection policy in our school. Every child needs to understand or made kind of known fact to them that there is something not only for adults, it is also that every child needs to be safe. And only then, because we have seen cases and heard about a lot of things about if as a child is not protected or abused in the childhood, when they grow as adults, they also have manifested the same kind of abuse in their future life. So this is very, very a critical thing, that if they are safe, they go out as adults or future citizens, and they themselves kind of protect. We have seen that, and that's not something new. So that's one point what we spoke about, that they should be made comfortable, that things happen. It's not that something is very unusual, but yes, you have certain policies which are in place in school, and you have the very right, and you are safe to come back and talk to us. So that's about one point we just discussed in our group, which adds on to Alifia's.
So that's a really important point again, Tasneem,
Thank
because
you.
what we need to do is empower the children so they know they have a right to be protected, and it stops any future repetition of that behaviour. So that's so powerful. Hello, Madhuji. Hello. Would you like to share your point, please?
Yes, definitely. I just wanted to say that the teacher can identify if a child withdraws suddenly or is unhappy, and the whole all-round development depends on the mental and social and emotional well-being. And it's so important for that reason to have a child protection policy, particularly now, so because there may be many issues related to COVID as well. People may have suffered a loss otherwise. Otherwise, the child needs to be protected from his own people at home also. So the reach of a child protection is very wide, and it's very paramount and very important as well. And even the background check of all the adults. We were discussing all that. I was in room number, breakout room 8, and this is in nutshell what we discussed.
This is fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you, Madhu. And Harry, do you have anything that you want to bring as well?
Good morning once again. For us in group 5, we looked at it at a general aspect. I'm here in Qatar, but my analysis is that parents bring children to school depending on information got from other parents. But this information is about protection, mostly protection of the children. How do institutions protect the children? Now, if you don't have that reputation of protecting people's children, because people are not there, there's no time, people are at work. So they give you their children because of the protection you give them. And you can never know how important a child is unless a child gets into trouble or a child reports. If a child reports something home, then that's how you're going to see problems. Especially if the child is damaged, the cost of health is very high, depending on what parents think or where they take the children for treatment. And secondly, legal costs. Sometimes if a problem happens, the parents may take the issue so high to, kind of legal, and then the costs go back to the institution everywhere. Thank you so much. That's some reasons we talked about generally.
Thank you, Harry. That's fantastic. And we are going to talk a little bit more about the repercussions to the schools, because it's not all, a lot of the schools fear to do certain things about child protection for the fear of reputation and damage. What we see is the opposite. When a school is doing right by a child, is really being seen as doing everything to protect the child, you're actually protecting your reputation a lot more. And I'm sorry, Charinia, is that your?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, I think for us, a lot of what you've been talking about, we have as well. But one of the points is that if we don't have a child protection policy, there is no standard of care that the teachers can work on. There's no framework for the standard of care. And one of the other points is from the parent's point of view, if they know that you have a child protection policy, I think they'll be more confident that their children are well taken care of. Therefore, for private schools, it could be beneficial to them in regards to enrollment. So that was from us.
Fantastic. And Tarini, I just want to say one thing. I have a 5-year-old, and one of the first question I had for the school that was hosting my child is there abuse in your school? And obviously the poor director was flabbergasted about this question, like, how will I answer this woman? And she said, yes, unfortunately, abuse happens everywhere. And, I said, okay, so you got my child. Because the minute a school says there is no abuse in the school, that's when you have an issue. Because we know, statistically speaking, 1 in 2 children, depending on where you are in the part of the world, will have suffered some level of violence. The UN study of violence against children has shown it. And if you are not seeing it, is that you're closing your eyes to it. So really publicizing, having the framework, having the child protection laws, that is very important. And I see that a lot of you have mentioned that in the chat as well, which is critical. We do need to have frameworks in place for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think as well, just to add, Katia, it's not just about having the framework, but it's empowering everybody with that framework, making sure the parents know where it is, the children know where it is, and to make sure that you're actually following the framework. On the thing that I showed you at the beginning, there's a protocol chart. So it shows you what to do every step of the way. Publicize it. Don't just let it just be a manual or a policy that sits within your SharePoint. Let all your stakeholders have access to that.
Exactly. And that is exactly the broadcasting part that we are saying. When you're really, it's making your policy living. It's really making everyone be aware of it. Provide bits of information in newsletter, remind people, put it in the first page of your school website that you are a child protection school, and really enforcing what the child protection says, the child protection policy says. This is critical. Otherwise, your whole environment is going to fall into place. And I see a lot of comments about gray areas regarding specifically neglect, which is harder to find. And Suzanne, I'll be with you in just a second. I just wanted to let you know that there is a great resource, and is actually a trend that we are seeing. In the UK, the Department for Education actually just launched a new statutory guidance for keeping children safe in education, where you actually have people where the statutory guidance is alluding to this this document called Addressing Low-Level Concerns. And this is where you have to really go deep in documenting things that may not be abused already, but that are indicative that there is something wrong. So really documenting all of those concerns that you're seeing, whether a child is misbehaving in class, whether the parents of the child has come up with a bruise or has come up with something. Addressing those low-level concerns is critical for you to getting a better painted picture in the future in case you have a case of abuse. Exactly, because in this situation, you will be avoiding the he said, she said, because you will have documentation about it. You will have a history there. You will be able to go deeper into certain areas. So it's very critical for you to really think about the low-level concerns.
Yes, and also over time, it gives a better picture, because sometimes one instance you won't consider as concerning, but when you have multiple, sometimes coming from multiple sources, then definitely it's easier for you to make a decision when there is a significant, then you need to take action as well.
Exactly, Marcina, you were right on target on it, because what we're asking for schools is to really monitoring that if you see a trend of escalation, if you see a pattern of repetition, that's when we should be very, very concerned. And you don't have to wait for abuse to happen to act. Exactly. Right? So this is fantastic. Thank you so much. And Suzanne, I think it's our last person to speak.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
I mean, not the last, but you're free to speak.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I believe that with this online learning that is happening nowadays, it seems that it's easier for people to abuse kids. And I believe that it's really important to empower these childhood protection policies, especially nowadays, because online abusing and bulliness is everywhere. I just want to say that.
Fantastic, Suzanne. This is great. I was actually speaking to I'm sorry, I forgot how to say your name. To
Malawan.
Malawin, sorry,
Yeah.
to Malawin about the dangers of online. And there are lots of, sadly, we have seen an increase in behaviors that are not necessarily only sexual in nature, but you're having hate speech, you're having anger, you're having Nazi groups, you're having groups that are talking about self-harm, that are talking about mutilation, that are planning plots against schools and whatnot. So this is a very critical area, and schools need to be very mindful about it. In the education portal that Kim alluded to, there are several online safety courses and safety curriculum that schools can just go in and adopt and check. It is very critical for us to think about that. And one last thing I wanted to say about that is that a lot of schools are still, and I remember Maju saying about going back now, and with the COVID, we're still going back and forth. So it's very important for us to really be broadcasting that whatever policy you have within your school is still valid online. So the not being alone with a child, really paying attention at the signs, the respect, the behaviors, everything that happens in the school should also be expected to happen in an online environment. So thank you very much, Suzanne. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. That was such rich content. I hope that you've all enjoyed that. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, and then Katia and I will talk through some of those points, but we will shortly run out of time. But just to remind you all, there's a further training session on the 18th and the 25th of September, which Katia will be hosting together with Malavan and Serendip Training. Let me just go back and we'll just run through a few other bits. So well done, everybody. You addressed this point really, really well, you know, and having child protection policies almost as living documents and not something that's just filed away. This is for something for you to read once you get this. So Katia, do we want to talk a little bit about the children that are more likely to suffer harm?
Absolutely. So when we're talking about children that may be abused, any child can be abused, but there are certain children who, because of their nature or behavior or difference in culture, they may be deemed more vulnerable. So for instance, children who are disabled or who have any other special needs, children who are being seen as different, as you see here, asylum seeking or refugee children. One thing that is very important as well, LGBTQIA children, and more importantly, children who may be seen as LGBTQIA may be also more vulnerable to becoming abused. And the last point is something that is very critical, because one of the things that we have seen from trends in offenders is that offenders will seek out those who are more vulnerable, and in particular, those who are thought of problem child, you know, so that child that commits a lot of that are rebellious by nature, or that have abused in the past, or that have been seen as bullies, or that are outcast anyway, because this label of harm or trouble child, actually, it's very cumbersome, it's very complicated. That's one of the reasons why we always talk to schools about avoiding this label, because those are children that are extremely vulnerable to becoming abused again.
So we've talked a little bit about communicating your worries and concerns. I think actually, we might have to address this one but a little bit later, but let's run through some of the points. So on my particular group, they talked a little bit about silencing fact why people don't speak up. So there's the fear that you might be wrong, doubts about the children's truthfulness, there's anger and distress, child's attempt to say, please don't tell anyone, Again, if you haven't got a clear policy in place and certainty about procedures and consequences. There may be other reasons for child's behaviour, not wanting their family to know either. You see this all the time, don't you, Katia? You're on
And
mute.
sadly, we have a lot of both on the child side as well as on the teacher side. There's a lot of the feeling of, what if I'm wrong in reporting? And what we want you to think about is, what if you're right? Because a lot of the children will not disclose the issues. So whenever you are in this situation, please remember, what if I'm right?
The roles and responsibilities, I think you've all covered those very, very well. But just to have a little, do your schools have a designated safeguarding lead? That's really important. Should be a named person and a senior role in the school, a central contact point. And also don't have one person. What happens if that person leaves? What happens if that
Don't
person
leave, yeah.
It needs to be a little bit of a team. Is it 5 people we normally say, Katia, in most schools?
Yes, it depends on the size of the school. The child protection, usually we ask schools, we recommend schools to have a central person, because this person will be cross-cutting throughout the different divisions, or if it is a large campus or anything. And this person will be in charge of keeping track of all the different things. But we recommend the creation of a child protection response team that is vertical in nature, where you have people from, let's say, a teacher or a counselor or an admin or someone that is on a day-to-day business, as well as leaders. So not just a leadership position within the child protection response team, because exactly for that, if you have someone that leaves, the team knowledge is still there, so you can still tap in, and the newcomer will actually be easier to be trained. And it's very critical for you to think about your school. There is no rule of thumb. What we do say is that really has to be vertical. You have to have multiple eyes on it, different perspectives, different professional perspectives, different cultural perspectives, specifically talking about international schools. So think about your majority of children, think about the minorities. And also, if you have a large campus, do that by division. So maybe having a child protection response team for the kinder, early years, and then having a child protection response team for elementary and high school. It's a way for you to ensure continuity and smoothness. And it's really more important to think about who is going to compose that than how many people. And it's very critical that all of those people are deep trained, because we really need everyone to answer fast, have the ideas in mind of the processes, really understand what are some of the nuances that the work requires.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So duty, everyone's got a duty to share that information. Remember your duty and responsibilities. And these are 6 points for sharing key information. Be open, be honest. Consider the welfare and the safety of the child. Seek advice if in doubt, seek consent. Ensure your information is up to date and accurate. Record your reasons for the decision to share. Recording is really, really important, and record it in a real factual way, not with your feelings. I think we're going to talk about that in a second. So record keeping, be factual, be professional, and be accurate. Don't base it on, well, they said this or I heard this. Yeah. It's got to be really, really. So best practice.
And just one thing to compliment Kim really quickly, sorry. Remember to document all the details that you can. Maybe if you think that this may be a little, maybe irrelevant, in the future, it can say a lot about future cases. It can really show whether you have progress or trends or escalation. So be very careful about documenting as much information as you can. Specifically, what we see schools putting is inappropriate behavior and period. But what is this inappropriate behavior? What is this behavior necessarily that happened? Really describing what the behavior was helps you paint a picture for future cases.
Thank you, Katia. So do you want to share the best practice, Katia?
Absolutely. So when you're talking about how to react to a child, either whether it was an accidental disclosure or it was a planned disclosure, we know that children will not come forward and just say that they were abused, but in the event that it happens as well, be that because you found out through as a DSL, or whether the child came to you and said, the most important thing is to remain calm, remain non-judgmental. A lot of the things that the child may bring to you may be horrifying, may be disgusting, may be something you don't believe in. But it is very important to keep your, as we say, keep your poker face, keep it really together, stay calm, reassure the child. So it's one way to constantly say that, you were very brave of coming forward. We will help you as much as we can. I will be with you. No, don't make false promises like everything's going to be fine, because it's not. When children come forward, and especially if there is an abuse case, the whole process is very re-victimizing. Even in countries where you have a non-re-victimizing approach or a child-centered approach, there is still a lot of steps, a lot of re-victimization. So it's very important for us to keep in mind that we can't make false promises to children. I will be with you, I will help you as much as I can, but everything is not going to be fine. And really, I love this reflect back when you have been told, because sometimes children may use certain words that they are not clear to you. So be sure that you ask, so what do you mean? What did you mean about cookie? What do you call cookie? So really go back into understanding it a little bit more and documenting everything they say. And provide choices to the child. One of the things that you have is that when a child is abused, all options, all power of the child was actually stolen from her. She has no more choices. So providing choices to this child is fantastic. What do they want to see happening? What do they want the next step to be? Do they want you to be around or not? Do you want them to be, do you want to tell first the parents or first the police? So all of those different things that you really need to think about, and talking to them about that. And as we said, really deeply record everything they say. Try to use their own words as best as possible, obviously explaining what you have to let's say they called something cookie, so explain what that cookie means, but really try to be ipsis literis as much as possible. And I love that Raja is saying something about considering the cultures in approaching these issues. Culture is something very critical that we really need to think about. We really need to understand whether there are cultural differences, whether there may be in the culture of the child something that may, for instance, define authority may be a challenge for Asian cultures, or other situations where touching may be permitted in certain cultures. So understanding those nuances is very critical.
Thank you. So the opposite of best practice, don't interrupt them. Don't do your shocked and horrified face. Don't make any jokes. Don't make any disbelieving comments. Don't ask investigating questions, and don't make promises again that you can't keep. Don't say, this is all going to be all right, this will never happen again. It's really, really important. You're there for the child support, to document things accurately and just to make sure everything's recorded accurately and support the child. But don't do any of these things, and don't do, facial expressions which will just then frighten the child further.
And just to add to this, a couple of things that was said about the child protection being an essential part of the policy, and also about, the important thing about reassuring that it's not their fault. Children will be very, very critical of themselves. They'll be very fearful and thinking it was my fault, I brought it on to myself. So really reassuring the child in this instance is critical. And one of the things regarding the culture and regarding the policies is that the team need to be very aware of what will happen next. So we are always constantly suggesting this multidisciplinary team outside of the school, so you understand, if I report this to the police, what's going to happen? If I reported this to the Child Protection Agency, what's going to happen? The reason for it is in providing choices, as thank you, Chanchal. I was trying to remember what was the provision of choices. So in providing choices, it's very critical for you to understand what may happen to the child. So maybe, let's say, if you report it to the authorities first, without bringing someone of trust to protect this child within a household that has abused them, you may be leading them to more exploitation and more abuse. So it's very critical for you to understand what are some of the steps that your country will take, so you can really work around and ensure that children are protected.
So next steps, update your child protection policies, share them widely. Update safeguarding learning and development programs for all staff. Make sure all staff are trained, the dinner lady, the security guards, everybody that is in contact with that child. Check as well that there's more than one emergency contact for each child, and make sure that's updated regularly. Create and complete risk assessments for volunteers. So some of our schools make the volunteers do the support staff child protection training, so that, again, they explicitly know their responsibilities. Is there anything you'd like to add to next steps, Katia?
Yes, we're fine. I was replying to the chat about being a trusted adult, and it's very critical for us to really remember that, irrespective of me being a teacher or me being in a school, we will always be a trusted adult to someone. So it's critical for us to really understand and understand our role. One thing that I would also add here is really be aware of a code of conduct. Really is strengthen your code of conduct, because we know, and as I was speaking to Madeline, children learn from models. They look for adults and they behave as adults. So if I'm saying I don't tolerate abuse, but I'm being whispered to a child, my words are not equal to my behavior. So we really need to create this code of conduct in a way that it does provide what you have been saying about creating a perfect environment for learning, really fostering this environment for reporting. And we have seen, I don't know if you have heard about the Everyone's Invited website that happened in the UK, where they were discussing a lot of testimonials. They were posting a lot of testimonials about things that happened in schools and other youth environments. What we see is that there is a lot of lack of trust, because the words are there. Everyone is talking about it, but in the end, they are not following through. So the perception of whether things are being dealt with or not sometimes are more important than having things on paper. So really be mindful of, if you say that you're going to be punished but for not doing something or for doing something, beware that you really have to punish this person. You have to really see, it's not punish the word I'm trying to use, but really the consequences will be there. If you say something, do something. Otherwise, you will foster an environment of distrust.
So finally, ECIS can provide you with the child protection protocols, the online certified training, and ongoing training sessions with experts. So Katia, probably about once a month with ECIS, holds forum. We're very grateful for her expert advice. So we're just moving into the last couple of minutes. So I will hand over to Malavan to finish off. Thank you, Katia. You've really provided some great insight for everybody.
Thank you very much, Katia and Cam. Katia, do you want to encourage any last minute questions, any doubts people have, whether they want to ask specific to a challenge, a question, not a statement, preferably a question that you would want Katia to answer on your behalf? Please feel free to ask the question. We've got 2 minutes.
Shashista has her hand raised. Please do speak. What can we answer for you?
Hello, hi, good afternoon. Hi. It was lovely to hear you all, and all the suggestions. The PowerPoint was amazing. Thank you for spreading awareness. Just a question. I know, I mean, we've been in difficult situations for the past 2 years, and during the COVID-19, I mean, COVID times, do you think, I mean, if a teacher is or any staff member is not following the COVID restrictions, do you think that comes under safeguarding as well? Or I mean, not following, because all schools have their different rules. They have their, lines or borders that the teachers cannot cross to sort of, contain, I mean, to avoid the spread of infection. But what if what if a teacher comes closer to a child during these times? Does it come under a safeguarding concern?
Well, it depends a lot on you mean you're already back in session, right? So it's not online anymore and you're already back in session.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. So there are a couple of things that you need to be that you have to take into considerations. That when we're talking about child protection concerns, it doesn't mean that the person will be immediately expelled. So that's when we're talking about low-level concerns and abuse. There is a degree of what things need to be done and what are some of the issues that need to be considered and done and approached. It is very important to, yes, document it, but really bring it the person to talk about. Before you go into session, it's very, very, very critical for you to really inform everyone of the community, not only teachers, but everyone in the community about what the COVID restrictions are, what are some of the policies, what are some of the issues that you need to take into consideration. And obviously, if you see that someone is defy it once, you bring the person to talk, you document that this happened, you talk to the person about it to understand maybe what are the reasons. Was because, maybe the kid fell and they wanted to help and the kid needed some solace or something like that. Or was it deliberate? Is the person continued to do that? It is something at one time only, or is it a systematic thing? So this is where you really need to document it so you can understand better what are some of the issues, instead of just saying, yes, I talked to them and it's fine, but really bring in the person and try to understand. One thing that we haven't mentioned is that we have a duty of care to the child, but we also have a duty of care to the offender, alleged offender, because they are most likely a colleague, and we really need to also understand that they may have a reason for certain behaviors. So providing support to them as well. And if you see this case, well, it's a first time only, talk to them, document it to make sure that this doesn't happen, understand the reasons for this contact, and document those reasons as well. It's important for you, especially now in COVID. We know it's a sanitary crisis, and we understand it is important for us to also keep children safe from the virus as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have been amazing with your participation. Thank you.
To all the participants, in case you require the certificate for today's session, on the chat, just mention the correct spelling for your name so we can pick up from the chat, prepare the certificates and email you along with the recording and today's slides. Okay, so while you're doing that, before we close, we have the complete workshop next month on the 18th and 25th. It's a 2-Saturday, includes a lot of case studies, exercises, and discussions, which we would like to see many schools join this program. So when I'm sending you the mail with your certificate, I will also include information about the workshop that we're going to conduct. Right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, Katia. Thank you, Cam.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Malouine. It was fantastic.
Pleasure,
Thanks
pleasure.
a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
We'll just stop the recording.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
so much. See you next time. Goodbye.
Most welcome. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very fruitful. Thank you.
See you next time.
Very glad to hear. Very glad to hear.
Bye-bye, Nigo.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.